The Houston Rockets are bringing in disgraced Boston Celtics head coach Ime Udoka after he was suspended before the start of this season for a violation of team policies. He was hanging out, I say that in quotation marks, with a Celtics team staffer. The man, I believe, was engaged. So, not a great look. But hey, it's not about who you bleep. It's about who you coach. It's about how well you coach. And you got to say this about Udoka. When he came in and stepped in for Brad Stevens in the Boston Celtics, that was a team that I think needed some hard coaching and needed some clear directive on what direction and what role every single player had on that team. He was a welcome addition, and the turnaround that they had towards the end of last year, leading all the way up to the NBA Finals, was truly remarkable, to the point that I think Udoka deserves a lot of credit for it. One of the reasons that hiring Udoka would be because of what he did there in Boston, installing discipline. And maybe that means that James Harden doesn't come here. And I don't want James Harden here. I'll say it once. I'll say it as many times as I possibly can. James Harden is not helping the Houston Rockets take the next step with this young core. He's not. If you think otherwise, you're stupid. Period. Is that mean? Sure. It's a fact. But the other thing that's interesting about a potential hire of Ime Udoka, we've heard some rumors about Celtics star forward, but can play a little guard, Jaylen Brown, about how he's maybe not happy in Boston. He has been talking about how he finds the city to be essentially racist without calling it racist, among other things. What is it that he's frustrated with? Is he frustrated being in Jason Tatum's shadow? Is he just frustrated being in Boston? I don't know. Maybe he's tired of Marcus Smart. Maybe he's tired of Grant Williams. There's some people in that locker room that are probably a tad annoying if you're dealing with them in heavy doses. But if Jaylen Brown liked playing for Ime Udoka, doesn't it make a lot of sense to try and potentially make Brown want to come here by hiring Udoka? Jaylen Brown would be a perfect piece for this team. If you're trying to get a veteran player who's consistent in big spots, who can teach all of those players, these young players, how to actually be a professional, I mean, Brown's the guy. And it's more important that you get good players than you get a great coach. Brown is, in my opinion, top 15. I would love to see Brown as the best player on this Rockets team. And hey, I mean, maybe the Celtics are going to ask for a draft pick in exchange in a trade or something like that. Okay. Because I'm assuming the Celtics are going to do everything in their power to keep Jaylen Brown. But maybe there's a way that you can lure him here. And having Udoka definitely makes the Rockets more attractive destination, I think, for Brown. I would be pumped if they got Brown. I would be bummed out as a Celtics fan, but I would be pumped if they got Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, and Jaylen Brown is the right age for a guy to kind of lift this team and be the
right
veteran, quote unquote, of the group. I mean, he has played in the NBA since 2016, 17.
Right, but he's surprisingly young.
Yeah, he's 26, which is again like the perfect age. Like you don't obviously James Harden is more veteran than Jaylen Brown, but he's almost now too veteran compared to Jalen Green, Sengun, Jabari Smith, who are all in their either teens or early 20s, that you would want someone a little bit closer, a little bit in that timeline. And yeah, I think Ime Udoka, obviously the best, the number one bullet point on the pros list of hiring Ime Udoka isn't, maybe you get Jaylen Brown, which is actually the best thing you can say about Ime Udoka, is that he would be a great hire even if you say there's no chance that Jaylen Brown ever suits up for the Houston Rockets. It still would be a good hire because of what he did in Boston, specifically the holding the guys like Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown accountable, even Grant Williams. You see how he's going now.
Thank God. Someone needed to yell at Grant Williams.
And him being able to instill that kind of discipline and accountability, that is exactly what the Houston Rockets need.
They need it. They need it badly, Sean. And if you have moral qualms about what he did in Boston, just know that you would probably be in the minority as far as this keeping him from ever getting a job again. And I get it. There's a lot of things that we don't know about it, number one. Number two, I'm not acting like sexual harassment isn't a big deal. I'm not acting like improper workplace relationships aren't a big deal. But in the grand scheme of things, where do they rank among big deals? I would say as far as guys getting suspended for a full season, this is pretty crazy. And I know it's a cross-sport comparison, considering Deshaun Watson got 2/3 of a season for doing significantly worse things with many more people, allegedly.
It's also, I mean, given what we know now, so is this offense bad enough that he can never coach in the NBA again?
Right.
Like, is that what we're doing? Like, what he did is so bad, he just can't coach in the NBA again.
Gotta keep him out.
If the answer is no, then why don't you want to, like...
He cheated on his fiance. Who's done that before?
Never in the NBA.
Never.
You kidding me?
No, that would never happen.
How dare you?
Nope.
For even suggesting that.
By the way, Sean, do you think that the Rockets' job is more interesting than when Steven Silas took over? James Harden was there. Russell Westbrook was there. Jonathan Fagan wrote the job is more interesting. Here's what he had in the Houston Chronicle. The Rockets' initial list of candidates could indicate the job is considered much better than the record. It's a low bar to clear. And with only the Pistons position open at this point in time, there are few openings for head coaching candidates. But more than a week since Raphael Stone said the feedback he was getting indicated the Rockets' job is an attractive situation. Several individuals involved in the process said it is intriguing for the reasons the GM described the day they announced Silas would not be back. Young talent, draft picks, the most cap space in the NBA, and flexibility. And really the only holdup, it seems like, is the coaches want to get a feel for Rockets management. Do you agree with that assessment, Sean? Because I think I do.
Yeah, that's like point for point. Like, yep, it is definitely more interesting. I don't know if it's a better job, but it's definitely more interesting than it was in 2020.
I saw that headline and I was like, is this going to be some Rockets puff?
The last paragraph is
pretty pointed.
Yeah.
And to Fagan's credit, he's not like a lot of the people that cover the Rockets who are just constantly overpraising him. It's the young people that I feel like were like brought into the fold by Daryl Morey, and they just are a tad more trustworthy than they should be. Not skeptical enough. But I think Fagan's right here. And when it comes down to it, it's funny, but joining a team that does not have established stars versus joining a team that has established stars, where are you going to feel more comfortable? Where are you going to deal with more stubborn, let's be honest, pricks? It's probably with the two established stars that Silas had to deal with in Harden and Westbrook before they up and left.
Yes, definitely this team, especially with the cap cap room and the flexibility in that regard, it is a very like moldable team because they have a whole bunch of young guys. And as a coach, you would want this is a team that you can really kind of build more in your image. You would hope that you get some input on the offseason moves, which will probably be a big offseason as far as adding talent and actually taking that next step into competing. And I mean, I can't think of two less moldable NBA players than Russell Westbrook and James Harden. They might be 1 and 2 least moldable.
Seriously. Because Westbrook is never changing who he is as a player. And Harden off the court, it's hard to imagine that he's ever going to give that up. To his credit, for a long time, he was able to make it work. I don't know if it's quite the same, and I do think we need to pump the brakes on giving Harden praise for a couple of games against the Nets, one of which he played statistically not particularly well.
Yes, I also would like to see Ime Udoka just MF him about getting in a defensive stance just one time. Just bend your knees on defense.
Remember,
please?
There's that video of Kevin McHale patting Harden on the shoulder, and Harden like grabs his shoulder and turns around as if like he's just been spanked. He's like that to me. I'm talking about one of the best players in NBA history who's giving him a pat on the back, and he's acting like a giant bee about it. Whatever.